Greetings, comrades. Welcome to NoCap News. My name is Carlos Michaud, and I'll be your host tonight. Our top story is the first presidential debate of 2020. An American tradition, which should be a high level of discussion of policy, which it never was, has now devolved into seemingly the opulent funeral of our dying democracy. What was once a circle jerk of decorum, not unlike the Westminster Dog Show, has now devolved into this.
Companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a joke.
No, go ahead, Mister. I'm listening to you.
You got $3.5 million. From...
That being said, I would gladly go back to that tired dog and pony show of past elections as opposed to what last night's debate became. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but what Jake Tapper said.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
And now onto the debate. In one corner, we have the sitting president of the United States of America, a man who, given the opportunity to deny being a racist, chose not to.
This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
And in the other corner, we have a person who is not Bernie Sanders, which he should have been, but a person that said what all us non-white nationalists were thinking.
Will you shut up, man? Listen, who?
Now, in the hours following the debate, many pundits and public figures focused on Trump's non-denial of being a racist. People who apparently forgot that Trump, in 1989, took out full-page ads in the New York Times and 3 other publications calling for the death penalty of the defendants of the Central Park Five, a high-profile case that ended with the New York City Police Department settling a wrongful conviction suit with the defendants to the tune of $40 million. Don't forget that in 2017, Trump also called white nationalists in Charlottesville very fine people. These so-called very fine people were protesting the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Not only did these white nationalists murder a woman by striking her with a car, they marched in the streets chanting "blood and soil," which is a translation of a Nazi rally cry. And just 3 days ago, the mother of terrorist murderer Kyle Rittenhouse received a standing ovation at an official GOP event in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. So, I, for one, am not surprised Trump's lack of denial when accused of being a racist. Now, I will grant you that his call to the white supremacist group, the Proud Boys, to stand back and stand by is extremely dangerous and appalling. But to me, it was not shocking in the slightest. Trump's racist dog whistles, to some, are not obvious, like planning his failure of a rally in Tulsa for Juneteenth. The holiday celebrated across America in honor of the enslaved humans who in 1865 in Galveston, Texas, learned that they had been granted their freedom that they had been granted a full 2.5 years earlier. And if holding a rally on that date wasn't obvious to you, that's okay, because last night's debate made it extremely obvious. It was clear that he wasn't speaking to many of us, he was speaking to his base. He was speaking to white nationalists. What we witnessed was on live television broadcasts around the world. No longer can any among us deny that Trump is not only a white nationalist himself, but his base and his core is too. So if you don't agree with white nationalism, you can't vote for Trump. If you vote for Trump, you're voting for white nationalism and white supremacy. It's not more complicated than that. And now, for a word from our first sponsor, the radical left. Come on over to the left. We've got equal rights, healthcare, and a total lack of Christian fundamentalism that rivals Sharia law. Come on over to the left. It's radical. Which brings me to my next point, the main reason why I wanted to make this video tonight. Trump's attack on objective truth.
It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand.
When Trump says things like this, he is telling his supporters to not trust anything that he did not say. In George Orwell's book, 1984, it was known as doublespeak. In Trump's America, it's called fake news. With so much media available online, each person has the ability to make up their minds and then find media that supports the idea independently of factual reality. In many ways, Trump's base are choosing propaganda freely at this point, choosing to believe anything that he says and deny anything that he denies. this is extremely dangerous. Doublespeak is a common tactic used by dictators around the world, and even wannabe dictators like Trump. But when information is federally mandated, what starts off as fake news can quickly evolve into terrifying propaganda like this.
I don't know about all that, but this one is one that I heard. I heard he doesn't pee or poo.
He does not have a butthole. He has no need for one.
Now that clip is hilarious, but I promise you that a real dictatorship is anything but. Last night's debate showed us that we are closer than ever to a totalitarian dictatorship becoming a reality in the United States. It is crucial for those of us who oppose Trump and his genocidal administration to vote. Take it from me, a non-voter in the 2016 presidential election. I regret deeply not voting, and this regret has fueled my passion in activism and politics for the past 4 years. I guess it's one positive of Trump's presidency is that it activated me to be an activist, to be more outspoken, and to do everything that I can to stand up for what's right and to stand up against fascism. Maybe you watching this, like me, are one of the millions of people across America who have been activated by Trump's all-out assault on what our country is actually about and our American democracy. Do you remember what it felt like when you found out that this man was going to be our president?
And now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. Oh, I don't remember.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
I, for one, never want to feel like that. And I'll be the first to say that last night was a total disaster. It was a geriatric travesty. But if Joe Biden does not win, and if Joe Biden does not win by a large margin, terrible things are going to happen in this country. Terrible things that are federally mandated and legal. Still, I for one have hope. Never before in U.S. history have so many activists marched in the streets calling for justice. And never forget, the biggest demographic of voters in 2016 were non-voters. If the streets are any indication of what we can expect in the polls, it's going to be a landslide, and that's what I hope. But we can't take anything for granted. If you're under the opinion that your vote doesn't matter or doesn't count, if you're considering not voting, take it from me. I've lived with my regret for not voting for the past 4 years. F***ing vote. Please vote. Lastly, watching the debate last night, something was said that was totally ridiculous, but my hope is that someday the person that said this might actually have real context for what they said, and that is this.
You're talking about almost it's like being in prison.
This has been the first 2020 presidential debate coverage by NoCap News. Please stay tuned for our pilot episode premiering soon. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good night.
This content was brought to you by Antifa LLC. Now you have a friend in the anti-fascist business. In downtown Oakland at the corner of Broadway and 14th, and in SF across from the Ferry Building. Open weekdays till 6, Saturday and Sunday till 10.